My name is Kathleen Muzzio. I have been the business manager of St. Luke's for 5 years. In that time, we have probably gone from being a horse and buggy parish of 4,800 families, so at least we hope we've hit the 20th century. It hasn't always been easy. When I first got there, clip and paste really meant that. We had no website. We did not use email. I walked into a culture shock that I was not really prepared for. In that time, thank God, I had a pastor who was very much interested in technology, and that takes you a long way. That was coming from a pastor who was very suspect of technology, and his IT person fed that with every negative story he could possibly find, including people hacking emails and websites and your computers, and the staff never used it. One of the first things that I did was, in getting there, was really to let them know that if we're closed, you better check your email, otherwise you're coming in. I don't make phone calls at 5 in the morning, I send an email. I send a text message now. And they have finally started to come around, although it's been slow. Judy Nicastro from the diocese is over there, and she's heard many of my horror stories. As when I first came on board, we switched to the Parasoft church management system. And I had a staff that loved their last system and hated this one and everything that went with it. And I could probably go home most days and cry. I was like, why did I ever sign up for this? Like I said, it was pulling people into the today. Over time, they have gotten better. We have introduced more technologies into our parish. We currently conduct our liturgies. We have all of the text, all of the music up on screens in the worship space. We also do announcements in our narthex, run by a separate computer, both of them on PowerPoint. That has been so well received by the parish, I was shocked. I've gotten 2 negative responses in the 2.5 years that we've had this. The first one, the woman told me it would not be church without a missal in her hands. And someone recently, probably in the same age group as me, felt that they needed to get a St. Joseph missal because they also needed to have something in their hand. The older generation, who you would think, the seniors and stuff, love it. So that was something that I kind of wish I would have known. We may have moved a little bit quicker with that. But overall, I think the technology has helped our parish community. It's helped us with worship. It has helped me with trying to reach out to them. One of the other things I learned is I am also not a website designer. When the pastor came in, a friend of his said, wouldn't it be wonderful to give him a present as on his installation? I'll give him a website that was Joomla based. He says, guess what you get to do? I said, but I don't know anything about this. Oh, you'll learn. You're a quick learn. Well, after everybody saying, well, why don't you have photos on there? Because I haven't figured out how to do that yet. I don't even know what app to put on there to make it do that. There are about 10 I get to choose from, and I don't know which one works. So finally we did, after much complaining. We do have a new website up, and we have gotten wonderful reviews on it, so we're very happy with that. But I think one of the things is really to find people out there, to find the consultants that you're comfortable with, and also try to learn what your parish is about and what you need to reach those people out there. Without that, you have a lot of technology that just doesn't make it. And you'll end up, I think, very frustrated, as I was. I'm finally getting rather happy with the whole thing now. And I don't mind, I still do the website, but it's a lot easier. And I have someone when I need something new to say, hey, listen, we need this at St. Luke's. Give it to me, and then tell me how to use it. So I thank you for your attention.
Hello, my name is Frank Estremera. I am currently Well, let's see, my title is Technology Liaison for St. Robert Bellarmine. I retired from a Fortune 500 company as an IT manager for almost 40 years, about a year ago. And I have been a member of St. Robert Bellarmine for 28 years. And one of the things that, obviously being sort of weaned on technology, is I recognize the fact that this is the way to communicate. And if there's one thing that you can take away from today, the underlying theme is communication. It's all about communication. And so what we're doing here is using the technology to facilitate that communication. And technology, I mean, even though it's evolving, we can all go back a couple of years, you know, look at the cell phones then, look at things now. It's forever evolving, but we must keep up with it and embrace it and roll it out as much as possible, because this is your parishioners. These are our parishioners that they're going to be interacting. Our children, your children, are all growing up with their cell phones and interacting through it. So to that end, you want to make it so that you are communicating with the parish as much as possible. One of the things, like for instance, about 5 years ago, while I was still working, there was another outfit that was basically taking care of our website in St. Robert Bellarmine. And it was like nilly-willy. It was either getting updated or not updated. And I would look at this thing, and I, as a user, I would be frustrated, because I'm saying, this is the tool that we can all use to communicate, convey the messages that we need to convey. And yet, it wasn't being kept. It wasn't relevant. So one of the things that I then, in 2008, went to the pastor, our then pastor who since passed away, and I said, I'd like to take on the website. You know, and I did it on my own, you know, just pro bono. I like to do it. I've been, like I said, dealing with technology. So one of the things that I did was ensure that it was relevant, that it gets changed every week, so that people was basically, that was the gateway, the go-to place. To kind of like get the people involved. Because let's face it, if you don't do that, and if the parishioners have any sort of questions and things like that, what are they going to be doing? They're going to be calling your parish office. Now, I don't know about your office, but our office only has 4 employees, and they're basically jack of all trades. So, you know, as they're focused, you want those people to focus on what they need to focus to run the rest of the parish. Our parish has 4,100, they're given plus or minus, registered families. We have a CCD program with about 1,500 students. You know, so there's a lot of logistics in the background. So I always saw that, and so slowly but surely, you know, the religious education director that we have there, she is very in tune with the technology. This past year, we basically brought all of the CCD in. She was just amazed, because there was not a single call. Everything was online. Everything was self-service. Email went out and says, this is where you go on the website. That's where your schedules are. That's where your forms are. You do all that. And that's the point, to make it self-service so that it relieves your personnel to basically do what they have to do to keep the parish going. One of the things that we're doing right now is, I just got back from a trip to Europe, but hopefully I'm going to be hearing from our developer. We're rolling out a parish app for mobile devices. And that's going to be our vehicle for, like for instance, in the wintertime, if we have to cancel the 5 o'clock Mass, if we have to cancel a CCD class at 7 o'clock because of weather, that's going to be the vehicle that we're going to be basically using to send out push notification. And again, so that you don't have people calling you, think about it, 4,500, 4,100 families calling you to see what's going on, is it on, is it off, you know. So these are the tools that are allowing us, and ultimately anybody that avails themselves of them, to manage your parish better. The things that I have learned, certainly, you know, we also use the PowerPoint at Mass. You know, we have the projectors there. The one thing that we do, and I know some of my colleagues here will agree, you know, you have to be careful when you're using those PowerPoints, because you want to sit all the way in the back of the church and see if you can read them. Because we do have a population that is not young, and of course their eyesight is not what they used to be. And so you see them squinting out there, and you look and saying, I'm also a lector in our church, and sometimes when I'm going up and I see the font, I'm saying, ooh, we got to do something about that, because nobody can read it, you know? So these are some of the things that you have to be cognizant about. You know, try and put yourself in somebody else's place. You know, how is this going to look to them? The colors in the background. something as simple as that. The contrast, it looks great on the PC, but when you put it on the PowerPoint on a projector, the colors are totally different. And if you have if you don't have white, you're using some other like blue on green or something like that, you look at them saying, wow, I can't read that. So, those are some of the things that you need to be aware of and be cognizant of. But again, it's just, it's the technology that we have to embrace and we have to push out there. I know some pastors, kind of have a resistance to it, and they're, okay, my pastor says that technology is the devil's tool. So I tell them that's why I'm here, Monsignor. But, again, it's something that you basically manage. I do it part-time. I go in the morning and do it, a couple of hours, and then I'm done. But, you do it effectively, and, I was actually surprised Dr. Chung actually used our website on one of his presentations earlier. I'm like, I was surprised to see our website up there, But you want to make it engaging, a website, you want to make it engaging. You also want to make use of, your phone system, so that if you don't have somebody that's answering the phone, but you have a phone system such as ours, which is voice over IP, and there are some certain announcements, put them right there ahead of it, so that nobody has to press, your extension to find out what's going on. Obviously, this is, and again, I can't overemphasize, it's the art of communication. That's what we're trying to do here. Thank you.
Mr. Caroline and Bill, anything to add?
The only thing I'd like to add is, and I mentioned it this morning with the group I was with, technology has a triangle to it. It's often referred to as the ICT triangle. Information systems, which keeps our things going and repairs, communications technology, but in the church, the area of educational technology is probably the least known and the least integrated into what we do. And I am an educational technologist, which means basically I train folks how to integrate technology into the learning process. And there is an art to that. And in addition to that, we're probably at a point in the church where we need to learn how to collaborate using the tools we have, because we have opportunities today to collaborate like we've never collaborated before. We still have a silo mentality where we think, I need everybody in my parish to do it for my parish, instead of saying, how do I collaborate with other parishes to do what we need to do and to keep our budgets tight as they need to be, but I don't need to travel all over to do certain things because I can do it electronically with one another. So I think we've got to learn those kinds of things. And I was challenged this morning to hear you say that Google is up and coming, but also delighted. Because Google is probably one of the formats that allows us to collaborate in ways like we've never collaborated. So if you haven't used that tool, I'd encourage you to begin using it, because there are all kinds of ways to collaborate with folks using that tool.
I'm filming you all right now. So. No, I just brought these for fun for my workshops today. Excuse me. I just have a few things to add. Okay. I just had a few things to add. I've been teaching IT for church management for the last...
Is it on?
Hello? Yeah. Hey. Okay. I've been teaching IT for church management for 6 years, 6 years now, and so a couple things jump out at me. I think that, and Steve mentioned these too this morning. I mean, I'm not someone who's saying technology is going to solve all your problems. This is not what my job is, but to hit that right balance, because we all know it's a double-edged sword. But I still believe that the potential for really impacting in a positive way is so great and exciting right now with all the new technologies that it's worth all that extra effort. That now you all are out in the trenches doing it every day. So my advice to you is you should get a PhD so you can teach all this stuff and not have to struggle through. I know it's a struggle, but I think from what I'm seeing is it's worth it if you can make that extra effort and push to get on board. I recommend every church should have an IT director. I know you probably don't, some of you have budgets and some of you don't, but there are different things. There's websites you got to manage, there's social media. Then there's a whole infrastructure issue with the church management software. And so it's a really complex problem, and you're dealing with volunteers, and it should be, the stakeholders should be all the way to the top. And, if it's a part of a ministry, right, technology is part of the ministry, it should be treated as such. So, other than that, I think we're ready for some questions.
Yeah. If you have a question, please step to the mic. And not everybody at once. This is yeah. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Question primarily to the parish people that we have here today. The Catholic Church being what it is and budgets being what they are, what would you say your technology budgets are? You have fairly large parishes, over 3,500 families, that's quite a bit. How would you say you handle your funding of your technology? If you have general numbers, that would be helpful, or do you rely very heavily on contributed service?
That's an interesting question. How did I know someone would ask numbers? I'm the number person, and I really don't have that. We kind of evaluate on an ongoing basis. We knew that we wanted, like I said, with our monitors, we knew we wanted to bring it in. Most of that was contributions, that we were able to fund that. They are expensive. We like to tease our consultant. You're good, but you're expensive too. He regrets ever saying that to the pastor, that someone else had said that. I think having a consultant is a worthwhile investment in figuring out what you need to do. There's nothing wrong. It took us a couple of years to figure out exactly how we were going to go about it. And during that time, it gave me a chance to figure out the funding as we went through. We are very lucky. Right now, we have 5,200 families in our parish. We were left, for all of his shortcomings on technology, the former pastor left us in a very good financial position, and that is a big thing to allow us to do what we're doing now, including some construction, which has driven me up a wall. But that's pretty much.
From my perspective, aside from the hardware, which, it's a one-time thing, we just upgraded our servers and had a voice over IP system installed. And, roughly, I don't know, that was probably around 60K or so combined. But the trick to the IT portion of that is, if you don't do so, I urge you to do time and talent surveys in your parish. Because in our parish, again, I retired a year ago, and I still love I love technology, I love what I'm doing, and I stepped up to the plate. And so the trick is to, hey, you have plenty of people in your parish that have a myriad of their things that they can bring to the table. Look for the guy that knows IT and say, hey, would you like to help us? Let's face it, a lot of us, are here in one reason or another, doing what we're doing for our parish because somebody tapped us on the shoulder, and said, I'm involved in RCIA, and how did I do that 17 years ago? Somebody tapped me on the shoulder. So if you don't do so, if you're not doing so already, do a survey, and then look for people to do IT and say, hey, can you help us out? Because that's basically how it, we did it. Is kind of pro bono here and that kind of thing, and I enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm helping my parish.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, well, as one of those pastors who thinks it's the devil's tool, how do you keep the devil out? So I'm concerned about different things that I've heard. I'm concerned about the government. I'm concerned about Big Brother. And I'm concerned about corporate America leaking in and through this technology. So we all want, well, and I guess I'm going to reveal myself here. I come from a small parish, all right? You guys are big parishes. Mine is about 700 families. And we don't have a lot of talent like you were talking about, but I understand the concept. But, you hear about, Home Depot and Target being cracked and infiltrated and all their information gotten out. And then you tell me, get online. I hear double messages. The fruit, I'm gonna start preaching now. The fruit looks good, it tastes good, and it'll make you like God, but you will die. Okay, you will die. And so there's not been much said about the dying part. I guess that's because you want us all to get involved in this. But I do think that for people like myself who don't know too much about all this technology, I'm very concerned about what I don't know with regards to safety and security. And then there's that whole thing about, I was in school, in a Catholic school, learning something, and they were online and doing all this stuff. And they said, well, you can look up what you need, what your thesis is going to be about. Well, there was this nun here, she wanted to do something on liturgical dance. So she said, well, and she was interested in getting men involved in liturgical dance. So she looked up male dancers. You could imagine what came up on the screen. We're all like, oh my God. You know, that kind of thing. So that's my concern, and I don't know where that goes, but that's my concern. You know, we got monitors in our church. I'm really scared about hooking it up to the internet for that very reason.
If I may address some of your concerns, you definitely want to get somebody, especially if you're not online yet, but you want to get somebody that knows what they're doing, that understands things like firewalls and fire rules, and you know there's filters that you can implement such that if somebody puts male dancer, you know, that something inappropriate doesn't come up. But there are always, I mean, let's face it, nothing is going to be 100%. You know, the best IT person that's out there is not going to keep somebody that really wants to get into your place. But then on the other hand, how many people really do you think that I want to get into a church? You know, so I mean, if you're a bank, if you're a retail store, of course. But what's a church got to offer to a hacker? Probably not much. But your concerns are valid, and that's why you want to get somebody that understands those things and how to set them up so that at least it keeps things kind of like quiet.
Now, Father, I think we're not that far off in age. Can you remember growing up and going to a drugstore and looking at the magazine rack? Okay, you have to learn how to practice self-control. And I think that's where we're at today. You know, it is a matter of, yes, I can search for things, and all of a sudden I go, oh my God, where am I going to be led to there? No way do I want to go there. And so you choose not to. The other thing is digital citizenship is one of the major areas that our children are being taught in many ways. And I wonder if our adults know that as well. I'm glad to see that in the business school here, ethics is part of it. We're in a world today where we've got to learn to be ethical, functioning individuals in a digital world in the most wholesome way. With any technology tool, I can choose to use it evilly, I can choose to use it for sanctification. I'm in control. And I think the sooner we realize that I'm in control, that it's not somebody else that's in control, but then I have to manage when it's not used properly, such as Target, all of a sudden they realize, oh, we forgot to do something, and so they have to close the trap door and work with it that way. Steve, any comments?
Yeah, well, these are very pertinent comments. I agree with everything that's been said here, and I think that I mean, we can't really, as a group, abandon technology because we're afraid of certain things. I mean, we have to send a positive message, as Sister was saying, that you know, we need to send, especially the young people, they need to see that it can be used in a positive manner and not a negative manner. And we've kind of been guilty in the past of abandoning technology because of, you know, and the evil people have not been slow to adopt some of these things, you know, so for these really negative applications. So we need to kind of be proactive a little bit. And, as I said, it's not 100%. There's going to be bumps along the road, but I don't think any of us wants to go back either. So it's kind of, we're on this roller coaster of technology, and it's a wild ride for sure. So, but it's probably, you got to be positive about it. I think overall I feel like, and think of the good applications too. Like there's lots of good ones. Okay, go ahead.
No, okay, so we have a monitor in our church, and we're doing the whole mass thing. Are there any programs for that, or somebody invented something that makes it easier for you to, you don't have to invent it yourself?
Well, if you do, we use a simple PowerPoint presentation. So if you have anybody in the parish that knows PowerPoint, that's easy enough. And we have a tech ministry, and the whole role of this person is to sit at Mass and hit the enter button. So it's all pre-programmed, it's very simple. I run a loop on our monitors out in the North-X, which is just announcements and stuff and things going on in the parish.
So what are some best practices with that? For instance, you get different priests. You might have different priests come in who, one guy is going to say the Confiteor, the other guy is going to say the Lord have mercy, somebody's going to skip the creed, somebody's going to, so how does the operator know what this Father A is going to do as versus Father B? Okay,
well, it is generally obviously the same Mass. Our director of liturgy programs, what's going to go on. As far as the prayers and whatnot, we have had where the priest has decided to do the short version of the gospel, and the director of liturgy decided the long version was it. The person doing the technology, the person handling the PowerPoint presentation needs to pay attention. Okay, we actually have ear monitors for them now so that they can hear from the different microphones directly in their ear. They also have a script that's in front of them. So that, they're trying to use all of their senses. It happens rarely that you run into that. Homilies obviously aren't on there. You couldn't do my pastor's homilies because they change with each Mass. He doesn't even write them down. But the other things, the other aspects of the Mass are much easier. Singing is a little bit harder sometimes to keep it, but all the music is there. And with practice comes proficiency.
Now, did y'all get rid of the missalettes?
Yes. We're going green.
And how did that go over with the people?
Well, we have both in our church, and so what we put up on the PowerPoint is basically those highlights, such as the creed, the songs, and all that, because that's going to be, the same. The creed, as you say, sometimes when we're doing, say, RCIA, they're going to skip the creed. We do have whoever is actually running it has got a wireless sort of mouse that's sitting right in the front with us. And so as the priest is doing whatever and they notice that the creed has been skipped, they just basically skip right over it. But yeah, we do have the missalettes and all that because, again, not everybody, as big as the screens are, can see them depending on where you are sitting in the church. So at least, we always say, we always post there like the song, song number 351. And so the title, and then we switch over to the actual words of the song. That way if you don't want to follow there, get everything out and read it from there.
Good afternoon. I come from a church that is fairly small, and being 36 years old, I have dropped the median age of our congregation by a half, and I'm the only one. I am the head of worship, so we do the PowerPoint. I talk to my pastor the week before, and we get all that together. I get the liturgical ministers together, and so that goes off without a hitch. But my problem is this: because of the fact that I am probably the youngest leader in the church, pulling the rest of my congregation with me is very painful. I say it's a labor of love, but it is labor. And how did you begin to get better communication from technology? How did you begin to start to introduce that to a congregation? I was sharing it in Dr. Bill's class a couple of minutes ago, where I literally had the head of our staff parish relations say, I've been doing it this way since Moses walked the earth. I'm not doing it, you know. And I'm like, but Mom Reed, you gotta work with me, you know. So, because it really does hinder the growth of the church. It really does hinder my compatriots who are my age, who are looking for a place to worship. It hinders us because we're like, I can't roll with this. I can't rock with this. So how do you begin to introduce that with an older congregation?
As being one of the youngest ones, I think sometimes that are at Mass, we had the funeral of the former pastor, and we decided with everybody there, why not just hop in? We had the monitors, and we just kept looking for that opportunity, and then just decided we were going to jump in and let it rip. We had been preparing people that we would be going to this. They saw them go up. Most of the people running our PowerPoint right now are the seniors. They have taken to this. It is a way of them serving. Some of them may have a physical disability. They can't walk, so they can't be extraordinary ministers. They may not want to be lectors. It gives them an opportunity to participate and to offer something back. And sometimes that's where you need to go. And like I said, it was promoted. All you need to be able to do is hit the button. Mm-hmm. If you can hit the button, you can serve your parish and be a leader. So.
I was going to also add, as a technology advocate, be persistent. Just be persistent. You know, people will come around. You know, in our situation, the PowerPoint, the big screens came with our new church, which it was inaugurated in 2002. And so that's when we basically introduced everything there. And we also have a mix of young people and older people that are actually running the PowerPoint. You know, and, you know, sometimes all you might need to do is just to get some, let's just show them how easy it is. Talk to the pastor and say, hey, can I get up to the pulpit, you know, someday after the announcements and make your pitch? And show them, look, can you do this? You know, we need somebody to do this. You see how easy it is to follow the Mass? And hopefully, because especially people that have not been exposed, they may not necessarily know, you know. To them, you're asking them to write everything, the program. You know, when in fact all you're asking them to do is just press the button. And if you show them right there, that may very well be the hitch to get them engaged.
Okay, so you know how the Mass is. It's a spiritual experience. You know, it's a mystical experience. How does a big TV screen sitting up there enhance or take away from that experience? I mean, does it, in your experience, does it detract from the spirituality, the mysticism, the, you know, that thing that we want our people to experience? Does it detract from that? Does it enhance that? You know, how's that working?
In our case, we don't always have something up on the screen. For a large part of the Mass, it's just dark. And so we purposely insert in between the slides a non-slide. So that, because to your point, you're absolutely right. You don't want to distract from the Mass. You want to add to the Mass. So what do we put up there? Like I said, we put the Creed, especially, you know, with the new translation. You know, I still can't get the Creed unless I'm reading it, you know. But the songs, you know, because one thing we did notice when we started putting the songs up, because we didn't do the songs all the time, you know, it was just, but when we added the songs, a lot more people started singing. And so that in itself, obviously, is enhanced the Mass. But, you know, we don't want to distract something there, obviously, when the consecration or anything like that, not at all.
We do it a little bit differently. We will put up a picture of, just say, the Last Supper or something that has to do with the sacrifice of the Mass during the consecration. So there is a picture, and obviously Sacred Art is rather inspiring as well, and it gives something that people choose to, you know, look at that. I agree, it increases participation. When you're going up to communion, you're not worried about I don't know the words to this song. It's right in front of you, so you can be singing as we should be on our way to communion. I think for us, it has increased our participation dramatically. We hear people now, because your posture is all different. You're not reading down into the book. Now, your head is up because you're looking up. So the whole demeanor and the whole posture of everybody in the congregation becomes very different. And I think that has just made a tremendous difference for us. It has also allowed us to introduce a lot more and a variety of songs and hymns and so forth that we may not have been able to do when you're limited with just a missal.
How you doing? I guess the biggest thing for me is has the population of people coming to church, has that increased? Have you found it either in your own parish, or have you heard anything? I mean, I guess that's, you still can't, they still need the Eucharistic liturgy, and that's, so I love how technology can bring everyone together and help teach and evangelize, but are they coming to church? Are they receiving communion? I know as Catholics you can't. I loved Steve's point, or was it Steve? The keynote speaker about switching things around. For Sunday worship and stuff like that. But as Catholics, you still need the Eucharistic liturgy. So has it? It's always in the fruits of the labor. Is it worth it? Are people still coming back? I know that might be a bigger issue, within the church as a whole. But is technology helping with that? Have you found it in your own parish, or by word of mouth in other parishes, or anywhere else in the community?
The feedback we've gotten from some people who have come from other parishes and moved into the area has been very positive. For St. Luke's, we've grown in 5 years from 4,800 families to over 5,200. So we've seen overall growth in at least registration. We have now started to see more younger families start to come in. In the next 2 weeks, I'll have an idea, because we have to do our October counts for the Diocese of Trenton, where we count the number of people at the masses. So I'll have a better idea on whether we're upticking that way. If you look at contributions, we're staying right up there and have increased a little bit. So at least empirically, a little bit there, we've found some, uptick. We'd like to think it was the technology has helped with that. People are used to seeing screens. We don't call them TVs. My tech person would totally fall out of his chair on that. But they are such a part of what we do and what we encounter in everyday life that they naturally start to blend in. And I think people expect to see the technology now.
Yeah, pretty much the same for us in our parish. We do get feedback, especially from people that are visiting, how wonderful it is to have those screens up there. Now, is technology itself what has brought, we do have a young parish, because simply where we are, there's a lot of, new homes being built, and of course, there's a large home, there's families and such, but is it just the technology that's bringing the people? I don't think so, because we have other factors that are also, part of it. We have wonderful priests, and deacons that, make you feel like a family in the parish. But it does help, absolutely.
I'd like to say, one of the things I do is I visit parishes, especially of students that I work with, and Queen of All Saints, I believe it is, in Gainesville, has technology, and as I visited him one Sunday, in addition to, just before Father gave the homily, he used the short video of the Samaritan. And I mixed amongst people afterwards just to say, well, how was that for you? Would you? And he said, oh, we love this. We do video, we do media on a regular basis. And that afternoon, students were in class and they did Stations of the Cross, where they were using the iPhone and projecting on screen. And I interviewed the kids afterwards and I said, what was this like for you? And one of the kids said, this is one of the first times that the Stations of the Cross was meaningful to me. Before, I just read words and I didn't know what it meant. I think we have to remember we have a group of people today that are very media savvy, very media orientated, and by not using media in appropriate ways, we are missing the mark with a huge group.
With putting songs on your screens and whatnot, does that require a CCLI license to do that? And then another question is, now your parish has replaced the missalettes with doing the screen. Yours has both, right? Okay, so is that a financial, because you don't have to purchase missalettes every year, so you're saving money on that, but then you're still purchasing missalettes every year, so you're almost like spending the money twice.
Well, we obviously don't have as many missalettes as we would otherwise have. So we have a couple of them here and there, and if you want it, you avail yourself to it. Basically we're driving everybody to the screens. As far as the licensing, we basically, what's being played is basically where we're just putting up on the screen. So I'm not sure, I may be wrong, but I don't think that we have an issue with that. Yeah.
We do license additional music from all of the major publishers to give us the broadest experience that we can have that way.
Okay, we have time for one final question.
I don't know if this was brought up in any of the other breakout sessions, but as far as e-giving, have your parishes gone from the envelopes to e-giving? And did you notice a change in what came in? Did you see a drop?
We use, actually, that's one of the sponsors here, we use Faith Direct. We have seen, first of all, it's steady. So you very rarely, I don't think we've seen a drop at all. It comes in no matter what the weather is, and that's what we tell everybody. If you're here to support your church, we would see the bigger drops in the bad weather with, where we'd have a $20,000 snow removal bill, and fine, that was the collection for the week or so. And when you got in $10,000, you were already in the hole. With e-giving, and like I said, we use Faith Direct. I love it as the business manager. I find it much easier to use. I wish more people would do it, constantly trying to promote it. Some people are still leery of it. I still have people who will do direct out of their bank, and have the bank checks sent. But I really do wish more people would go there. I think many people will find most of the envelopes we use never get opened. It's part of that mail that just sits there and gets thrown away. I'd rather have them, if they want to do something, sign up for electronic giving and decide every month whether you're going to give something then. I'd rather them give every week, but, I'll settle for giving.
We're not currently using e-giving in our parish. It's something that I've been looking to propose to Monsignor. I mean, there is a cost obviously associated with printing envelopes, and we just had an issue where we couldn't get exact numbers because some software anomalies, and so that was holding us back. So obviously there's pros and cons to either one, but it does make a lot of sense. It allows everybody also, if you're not, let's face it, if you're visiting or you're on vacation and you're not there on a Sunday, the church still has the same expenses, and so at least it allows you to kind of like, all right, either set it automatically or whatever. So, from that perspective, it does make sense. And like I said, it's something that I've been meaning to talk to Monsignor about.
I can add to that I've done some empirical studies on e-giving, and my studies show that when a family starts giving electronically, their contributions increase by 30%. For the reason that were mentioned, that people who aren't there are still giving, but also e-giving allows you to contribute at the beginning of the month, your first fruits. I don't know about you, but my household, at the end of the month, checkbook's awfully thin, and if my contributions to my church depend on what's in my checkbook the last 2 weeks of the month, that church is in trouble. But e-giving taken out at the beginning of the month really smooths that out. So I highly encourage, I think it's one of the smartest things a church can do is encourages people to e-give. Okay, I'd like to thank you all for coming today. I'd like to thank our panelists, our other speakers.